Prabhupada came into the LA airport. And this was we all went there. It was a huge kirtan. We were all waiting for Prabhupada to come in. And finally Prabhupada came in, and everybody, we were just jumping up and down, waiting for Prabhupada. We were jumping up and down. As soon as, and so there was one sweeper there, this big black sweeper, was mopping the floor. So he saw this commotion, everybody jumping up and down, having this big kirtan. So he came over to see what was going on, and Prabhupada came through the door. Everybody hit the ground. So when everyone hit the ground, he saw Prabhupada, and he just started saying, "Look at that man, he's shining, he's shining. Look at that man, he's shining, he's shining. Look at that man, he's shining." If you couldn't understand, I'll translate that from Southern English into California. He's shining, look at that man, he's shining. So he would take Charnamrita, and then he would pay his obeisances to Radha and Krishna, and then go to Lord Jagannath. So somehow I always managed to be right there when he would get to the Charnamrita bowl. So I was there one day, and I was standing right behind Prabhupada, and he took the Charnamrita, and he looked straight at me with this very heavy look in his eyes, and my heart stopped. And he had this horrible look on his face, and he just looked at his hand, and he looked back at me, and he said, "It is solved." And then he looked around at all the devotees and said, "It is solved." And I was just like, I was frozen, like my heart would stop beating, And Prabhupada was very upset. Then he, paid his obeisance, and he sat down. And then he immediately said, "Who has done this? Who has done this?" So there was some poor little brahmacharini, I can't even remember her name. She came, she was in the kitchen, she came in, and she was just shaking, in her sari. And Prabhupada said, "Why have you done this?" And she just giggled and said, "Well, Krishna's mercy." "It is not Krishna's mercy, it is your stupidity. Why you did not check?" So then there was, of course that's, then now there's a sweet one, that at that time, Gaur-Nitai, we just had small Gaur-Nitai, then this big Gaur-Nitai deities came that Govindadasi made in Hawaii, and it was the installation day. And Prabhupada was personally doing the installation. He went in, and so everybody was in the temple room, and I thought, well, if we're installing deities, there should be a feast. So I missed the whole thing. I was in the kitchen. I sat there and I just cooked everything I could think of, rasgullas and sandesh and halava and so many things, and puris, and made this whole feast because I figured there must be, if we're installing deities, there should be a feast. So I missed out, everybody was there because Prabhupada was doing it personally. So I missed the whole installation. I was hearing it over the microphone. So finally, the fire sacrifice, everything happened, and then they offered the prasadam. Then Nandu Kumar came in. He was Prabhupada's servant that time. So he saw that there was a big feast there, so he loaded up Prabhupada's plate with all the Mahaprasad. Then he went upstairs, and he told me when he came back downstairs, he said, Prabhupada looked at this plate, and he said, "This is breakfast?" He said, "No, this is breakhead." Then he said Prabhupada usually would just take a little bit of the sweets, just take a little something of one thing and something of another thing. He said that day, Prabhupada tasted the rasgulla and sandesh that I had made, and he ate every single one of them, just ping, 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 ping. And then he smiled at Nandu Kumar. He said, "Sweets means rasgul and sandesh." Then I knew my whole life was perfect. That was the only time I ever got to cook for Prabhupada in my life. And even by accident I cooked for him. Je anilo premadana koruna prachu